What's going on, guys? This is Chris from Sonarrcrds, and today we're starting a new series called Midi to Music. This is going to be for you if you're like a solo artist, or if you are maybe like a vocalist and you don't have a band, or if you just want to be creative and write music and you don't have access to instruments, or you don't have the capability of playing instruments. So I thought this would be a really cool series to go over how you can do all of those things, write songs and be musical without actually owning or being able to play any instruments. And this costs a fraction of which you would spend to purchase these actual instruments that you would be using. So without further ado, we're going to hop into it. So today, for the first half of this lesson, I'm going to split each of these off into two pieces. So this will be part one of like a metal breakdown sort of deal. I'm going to show you how to make like a simple, chuggy, maybe like a little riffy breakdown part. So let's dive into that. I've already set up my session template, and I have everything already set up, routed, all my plugins in and everything like that. This is all set up. If you need to find out how to do this, I might make a video in the future of how to set up and route and all of those things. It's pretty easy, not to waste time. So on cymbals, we're using Perfect Drums. For the shells, rooms, and verbs, we're using the Taylor Larson Luke Holland kit. And then for bass, we're using the Impact Studios Inferno Pro. And then for guitars, we're using the Odin Deluxe 2, which is pretty neat, especially for metal stuff. It's cool for a lot of genres, but specifically for metal. So I have all of these set up separately. I have the overheads here in their own. I have the kick, shells rather, direct mics, and then I have the room mics, and then the reverbs all separated, and that's just for routing purposes. I'm using Contact 8 out. So each I'm using just 4 on, and they're using 2 stereo channels each. So with that said, let's hop in and just start programming some stuff. I'm going to start with drum shells, and I might be a little quiet while I do it, but I'll explain as I go. So I'm just going to start making some sort of breakdowny sounding part. Little fill. Cool. That's it for those first 4 bars, and then maybe those second 4. I'll keep the same thing, but I'll speed it up. So. Go there. We'll bring this thing up. Keep that. Make that a little more exciting. Made that whole thing a fill. You want to keep in mind that like a drummer only has 2 hands, 2 feet. They can only do a couple things at the same time. Like it's not like they can be hitting 2 cymbals and a snare, or a couple toms. So try to keep it grounded in reality. When I first started, none of my drums were humanly. It wasn't playable. So definitely bear that in mind as you go. Like this even right here might not be entirely realistic, but it sounds cool. So I'm gonna go with it. So that's it for main shells. The only other thing I would do is like go in and humanize like velocities real quick, like these two. Make that first hit softer. Kind of makes it a little more natural. Every sample you set is gonna have every sample set you get. Wow. Is gonna have its own set of velocities. I think these like snare and toms have 3. Kick has like 2 or something like that. Just kind of gives it a little more of a real feel. An extra thing you can do is select everything. Every DAW has this to a degree. Yeah, you just go to action and hit humanize, and it changes up the timing a little bit, so you can see that's not perfectly on the bar anymore. It's like super subtle, but like right there I heard it do something weird. Quantize those. Cool. And then since I need the rooms and the verbs to be the same, I'm just going to drop that down. Cool. Next thing is I'll add some cymbals. So let's just go and add those in. This first half I'm going to have be like halftime, and then the second half is going to be like full time. So let's start with the halftime part. And then we can actually just take that same thing and then just add cymbals in. Do like little splashes on that. Make it a little weird. And then we're going to do that same thing, just humanize them and change them all up. A little bit. And that's it for drums, at least. You can build on that. You can make that crazier. You can do whatever you want. But let's play that real quick. I mean, that took 6 minutes, 7 minutes, something like that. Cool. So the next thing I would do is do guitars, and I would do bass last, and I'll explain when I get to bass why I do it last. So a cool cheating trick, if you don't want to have to like keep referencing back and stuff like that, You just delete that track. You drag and copy this down, right? And then rename it if you want. So guitars. Get rid of the bass one too. So then you already have your pattern here. So what you're going to want to do is quantize everything back to the grid and just boost all those velocities back up. The other thing you'll want to do is bring all these hits down, because right now this is all set up as a drum set, and we're going to make them all chuggy and stuff. Get rid of doubles, bring those all down. Oops. Okay. So now they're all set down onto one key, one note, which is C0. You can hear it, which is super duper duper low. This sampler does go from C1 to that note, so G F6, I think. So it's a pretty big range. The plugin itself is really cool. It has a bunch of different options for what you want. Right now we're using Pan Rhythms Expanded, which is the same thing as the Essential one, except it just has like an extra like 1,000 samples or something like that. And then there's Guitar 1, Guitar 2, if you want to do like a left and right. For this example, we'll just be using this one. You have Swift Edit, which is basically changing everything with velocities. Crank, which adds like an extra mid-range boost, I think. I haven't really gotten an answer on it. Info, which has all your key switches. Humanize, which for this instance I have it all the way set up. Your advanced settings, so like your bend intensity, decay intensity, tremolo intensity. I haven't touched any of that. Forced phase, which I always keep on, especially if I'm doing the double-sided guitars. Raw mode, if you want like scratches and palm sounds in there. Octave drop, if you're using tablature from an external program like Guitar Pro or Touch Guitar. And then latching for the key switches. So it's pretty neat. It can save you in a bind. So we have all these, and they're all at C1 right now, which I don't want. Lately, I've been writing in like G and F, so I'm probably just gonna bring it up to G. Right. So if we listen to it like this, it's all just gonna be like an alternated open pitch. So. We do not want that. So for this first part, actually, I'm probably gonna. Oh, they're not all quantized. Let me redo that. So that's all. Oops. Let me redo that. Redo all quantized. Cool. So I'm gonna take all of these and I'm gonna bring it up to, I believe, D. Here's the 30-second treatment. Cool. So then it just sounds like those two notes. You know, which does not sound great. Extend those out a little bit, make them a little longer. That probably doesn't need to be that much. Yeah, I'll bring it out. Screw it. Bring those. So we're just kind of extending the sustain on those. So now we have. Which again I don't want. I might even make these drag out because it's super halftime and then tighten it up that second way. The second time around. Cool. And then we're going to want to put the key switches in. which for what I'm doing is like palm muting. So you could do the alternate mute, which is literally exactly what it sounds like, alternate picking. I like to go a step further, and I'll use the down and up, just to give it a little more realism. The more realism you give it in the performance, the more real it's actually going to sound. So we'll start that with a down, because that's how you would normally play it. Let me solo the guitars. So for those could all be down, that'd be fine. That's how I would normally play it. So I'll delete that. And then this part though, you would never be able to play that all down. So we'll just do double, 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 double. Right? And we'll keep that for those kinds of parts. Those can both be that. Copy that. Cool, and we'll delete this part, and we'll do like a cool bendy something like that. A little interesting. So we'll make that a bend. Let's see what it is. Maybe like a bend down slow, A0. Make that chug. So it's not like... So in that whole part, and this part we can actually make it a little more like open and maybe like bend all those. That would actually be pretty cool. So you can add in like a pitch bend. Have that at 0. So it's almost like you're pushing down on the string tension on the headstock. You do like one of those. That was too much. You can even like kind of make that a little bigger there. Yeah, that's pretty neat. And then it goes back to normal. Make those. Actually, no, we'll keep that open. And these four here can be like a percussive chud. What do we got there? G sharp -1. And I'll start with that. And then we'll go back to chugging for these. You can add those same little percussive pieces there. And then for that last part, we'll bring in that same little transition piece from earlier. Cool, so let's listen to what we got. I'll amp it up too. Something I heard is we can actually go in here and make those like pop pop, like a percussive chug and then an open note. We'll keep those and we'll actually make those glitches. We'll make those smaller. So it's cool. We added like a little glitch in there. Cool. So then, now we'll do the bass. And the reason why I do the bass last is because we just did all of that work on the guitars, and the bass is just going to follow that, especially with metal. So we're just going to copy that up. We're going to get rid of all the key switches. You don't want those. And then we're going to take all those notes and drop them down an octave, because the guitar registers higher. So we're going to go to G0. Cool. Then we're going to get rid of all these doubles. You know, we're not playing chords. And I think, yeah, we're going to keep those up there. But now you literally have the same exact performance. We're going to go back to the guitars real quick. Select all the notes that you're playing, not necessarily the key switches. You're going to do this humanize action again, but with one variation. We're going to hit humanize, and that's going to change all the velocities up. And then you're going to do restore timing, because if it's not on time on the grid, it will not play the notes as they should in sequence. See, like this guy right here should not have done that. A lot of these are all messed up actually. 1 second. So do that. You're going to humanize. And then you're going to restore your timing. Or just see it to you. Just fix it all back up. So neat. So now all of our velocities are humanized. We're going to want to do that same thing to the drums, or bass, but different, because you want that to be a little bit of a different performance. Quantize all that back. Drop the velocity just a little bit. Cool. And now, when we play it back, we should have, you know, what is partially a breakdown. So let's see what we got. Oops. Right? And then you can go on and do so much more off of that. But it's 5 plugins, maybe. You know, we got the guitar plugin, the bass instrument, the drum instrument, and the cymbal instrument. So 4 overall packs of sounds that would cost you way less than buying a guitar or buying drums or buying anything. And it's all here and it's all accessible. And you know, a lot of people will say what they will about these methods and about these instruments and about the tools that we're using now, but in my opinion, that's what they are. They're new tools. And it's beautiful that we can put art into people's hands who have never been able to create before. I think that's the future. You know, I've heard a lot of people get really upset when drum samples started, and then got really upset when fake bass was a thing, and then when fake guitars became a thing, you would have thought cities were burning down. But I offer the proposition of, is it more beneficial if more people can be musical and creative? I would say so. I think that's awesome. You know, 20 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, this wouldn't have been possible. And if you couldn't play an instrument and you didn't have the time to learn, you kind of just left it at that. But today, with all of these new leaps in technology, we can make these things possible and bring music and creativity to people who never might have done it before. I think that's beautiful. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and we will be doing part 2 probably tomorrow, and I'm going to go over how you'll export all of these sounds out and do a quick little rough mix to send your band. Have a good day, guys. Thank you for checking it out.